central tendency or mean, median, and mode when you have grouped data, or like from a frequency distribution. So if you look, and you can look at these two, like I said, you guys are going to have a formula sheet. So this is what the formulas will look like, and they, by the way, they're not going to say population mean and sample mean above them. You're going to have to know what's what. But if you were to look at it, the population and the sample mean, they're identical, with the exception of population mean is mu and sample mean is x bar. But the actual formula themselves are the same. So this is when we have a frequency distribution. So in this case, the x1, x2, x blah, 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 it's actually the midpoint of the class. So you're going to take the midpoint of the class, multiply it by the frequency, which is what the F1 is, sum all of those, and then divide by frequency. So we're going to do one. We have a data set here. It's the National Survey of Student Engagement. It asks first-year students at liberal arts colleges how much time they spent preparing for class each week. The results of the 2007 survey are summarized below. Approximate the mean number of hours spent preparing for a class each week. So we're going to take the midpoint of each one of the classes, and we're going to multiply it by the frequency. So midpoint of 1 and 5, remember you find midpoint by adding the two endpoints together. 1 plus 5 is 6. 6 divided by 2 is 3. So our midpoint is 3, and our frequency is 130. And in just a second, I'm just going to write them down, and then in just a second we'll do it the long way in the calculator. Now, if you remember, I can go through and I can find the actual midpoint for all of these, but the other thing that you can always do is once you've found the first midpoint, every midpoint after that, you add the class width. And the class width here is from 1 to 6, 5. So that means if my first midpoint is 3, my next midpoint is 8. And your next midpoint is 13.
23. 28.
Now this one, it just so happens that my midpoint came out to be an even number and not a decimal. They won't always. Sometimes they'll come out to be decimals. That's fine. All right, so what I'm going to do in my calculator, just so my calculator will sum it for me, I'm going to go to Stat Edit, and I'm going to type my midpoints in line 1. And my frequencies in line 2. And then in line 3, I'm going to put the formula, which is to multiply line 1 and line 2. All right, now I need to sum all of that and then divide it by the sum of the frequencies. So I'm going to go to my main page.
Someone else there, it's just L1 times L2?
Yes. So I'm going to my main page and I'm going to sum. So second stat, over to math, sum is number 5. I'm going to sum list 3.
14,000.
That's a big number.
And I'm going to divide that by the sum of list 2, because list 2 is where my frequencies were.
That's pretty, okay.
And I get 14.25. And this is a sample, so I'm going to do X bar. All right, so weighted mean is essentially what we just did. But weighted mean is when each thing has a different value. So the most common way we think of weighted mean is for our grades. Even though here at Springtown High School, our grades are weighted 50-50, tests and homework, our grades for Weatherford College are not weighted that way. Your tests are
Like more.
60%,
Yeah.
and your final is 15% or something. And so anyway, they're all weighted differently, whatever those weights are. I can't remember off the top of my head. But so you basically have to do the same thing we just did. You're going to take your x value times its weight, sum all those together, and then divide by the total weights. So in this case, we've got, that's what this means, weight times your x value, divided by your total weights. So Bob goes to buy the Way Nut store and creates his own bridge mix. He combines 1 pound of raisins, 2 pounds of chocolate-covered peanuts, 1.5 pounds of cashews, and then they give the cost of the raisins, the chocolate-covered peanuts, and the cashews. So I'm going to do raisins cost, so I'm going to put, this is my x, and then those are my w. So raisins cost $1.25. Peanuts, $3.25. Cashews. And then we can do exactly what we just did. So you can use your calculator. Remember, don't hit delete, but arrow up and clear your lists. Yeah.
This is some fancy trail mix.
Yes, it is. It's bridge mix, I guess, for his bridge group.
Yes. That's way more than I'm willing to pay.
Cashews are expensive, though.
Yeah.
They really are.
Okay.
Let me just do the same as what we did last time.
Yep.
Did you get 1.60?
I did. Oh, that's wrong. Because we have them reversed. Because this is, that's what I get for not reading. This is per pound, so your pounds should be your weight. Duh, your pounds should be your weight. Yeah, it should.
Yeah.
Okay, but hey, it's all, don't worry about switching anything in your calculator. You don't have to. All you have to switch is, instead, you're still summing the same thing. You're still summing list 3 because it doesn't matter what order you multiply in, right? Because multiplying is commutative. So we can still sum list 3, but instead of dividing by list 2, we're dividing by list 1. So. Oh, that's much better. $3.52. All right, so number 2 is similar. Number 2 is grades. So the weights are your percentages, and your grades are your x values. When it's grades, it's super easy because you don't have to divide because it totals, it should total 1. So. I got 84.15.